Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sree's daily global COVID-19 show. My name is Sree Sreenivasan, and I'm the Marshall Loeb Visiting Professor of Digital Innovation at Stony Brook School of Journalism. It is my honor to convene this daily conversation around all things dealing with COVID-19 and this international crisis. Today, we're honored to present a conversation with two leaders from the World Health Organization headquarters in Geneva. We'll be joined by Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, Chief Scientist, and Dr. Sylvie Briand, Director of the Pandemic and Epidemic Diseases Department. We can't think of two better people to help us understand where we are with the virus today and how we look ahead to learn the lessons of yesterday. Dr. Soumya is on Twitter as Dr. Soumya, so please follow her at Dr. Soumya, and please follow Dr. Sylvie at SC Briand on Twitter. We'll start in just a moment. Please tag your friends. Please hit share. People are gathering from around the world right now. Please put this on your Twitter, on your Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or on all those platforms, and tag a friend. You know someone somewhere who would benefit from hearing this information. And you can ask a question or just tell us where you're watching from. This is our 99th episode. We've been live for 99 straight days since the start of the lockdown in New York City. Hello, everyone. I'm Sree, and I'm just honored to have you all with us here today. Thank you for being here. Tomorrow is our 100th episode celebration, and we're also marking it by talking to folks about Juneteenth, the celebration of the end of slavery, a holiday that was not celebrated outside the Black community, but now more and more people are paying attention because of these times. So we'll be doing that tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern time for a special 2-hour edition. Now, we want to bring on stage our two very special guests. Please get ready to ask them questions. Please share your thoughts as we bring on stage Dr. Soumya Swaminathan. Hello.
Hello, Sree.
Thank you for being here. And Dr. Sylvie Briand. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
We just want to start by asking the same question we ask everybody. How are you doing? How's your family? And how are things in Geneva? Dr. Soumya first.
I'm doing okay. I think we've all been incredibly stressed and working nonstop since January. My family is all back in India. I'm here by myself, which may be a blessing in disguise because I can throw myself into my work. And I think it's just an incredible time to be at WHO heading the science division.
And in terms of, you're right now in the headquarters, right? Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. And how many people do we have working on this from WHO? Roughly, like how many people are working on aspects of the pandemic?
I think it will be easier to count who's not working on the pandemic because everybody is being mobilized. So it doesn't matter whether you're in the emergency department or in the immunization department or in the TB department. Everyone is in one way or the other working to contribute to the health systems, and to service delivery in countries. Because apart from dealing with COVID, life is going on. People are getting sick. All the other diseases haven't gone anywhere. Babies are being born. Children have to be immunized. Mothers have to receive antenatal care. Tuberculosis hasn't gone anywhere. Neither has malaria. So it's even more important now that we don't forget about all of those things which have traditionally killed millions of people every year, particularly in the lower income countries.
And thank you, and we will come to that topic specifically in just a bit. Let's say hello to Dr. Sylvie Briand. Tell us how you are and your family.
Hello, I'm fine. I mean, as Soumya said, very busy, and so we start to get a bit tired after 6 months more. But we need to keep up because it's not finished. And my family is okay. They are with me in Geneva. My husband and my son got COVID, so I have had the opportunity to know the disease from many perspectives and angles, but also from the very personal one. So, but now they are fine, and so I'm okay.
Oh, I'm so grateful to hear that. That must have been extra problems in the middle of everything else you're dealing with, but they're okay. I'm glad to hear that. Let's get right to the issues. Tell us about your Office of Pandemics and Epidemics, the epidemic diseases. What does it do exactly, and how does it fit into the structure? And then we'll ask Dr. Soumya about how her work as chief scientist fits into everything.
Yes, the department focuses on epidemic and pandemic diseases. It includes, I mean, we look at dangerous pathogens. So whether it's Ebola, Zika, plague, the coronaviruses like MERS, or the influenza. So the things that are usually, fortunately, quite rare, but when they become pandemic or epidemics and then pandemic, then it's a big issue. So and unfortunately, they are more and more frequent because people are moving a lot around the world, and so when people travel, viruses travel as well. So we are busy.
And what does that mean in terms of your funding and all of that? We are seeing so much news about how the United States has pulled out and they're recommending that they cut the funding. Talk about that. How is that affecting your work? This is one of the things that we all want to understand, why it matters that the US participates.
Well, our work is mostly technical work. We manage a network of experts around the world because science nowadays, it's not only in one place. It's everywhere. Everywhere contribute to building up the knowledge on those viruses. So it's very important to make sure that people are connected. So the funding helps us first to hire experts in WHO so that those people can then in turn manage networks of expertise around the world, involving all countries to contribute to this effort to build this knowledge.
Thank you. Let's ask Dr. Soumya about her work, chief scientist. Tell us about that title and what is your organization like within the bigger organization?
So it's interesting that, the science division was only set up last year. So we're a year old, and I'm the first chief scientist. I'm incredibly humbled and honored to be in that role. But everyone comments that this was the right time for WHO to establish the science division because we've been in the heart of fighting this pandemic from the first day onwards in tracking what's happening because a new virus, right? So the solutions have to come from science. You have to understand everything about this virus, and then you have to find the drugs and the vaccines and everything that's going to then ultimately control the pandemic. So research and innovation has been part of our response from the very beginning. And I've been leading a group from that across the organization that's really come together. And we've been able to set up these global networks of experts, which, by the way, is the way WHO works anyway. We work through our networks of experts, but we specifically set these up for research and innovation in COVID. And in fact, we are reconvening in a couple of weeks to see what have we learned in 6 months, what are the remaining challenges, and how can the global scientific community further come together. And we've seen incredible collaboration and a willingness to share. People get on a phone call every week in all of these different working groups to share what they've learned. It's really, really incredible to see that, the desire to work together. So that's been one major activity. And the other one has been on all of the guidance that goes out. As you know, WHO is a normative agency. So we put out guidelines and guidance and standards. And these documents need to be very carefully reviewed and quality assured because the whole world depends on WHO's guidance, or at least a large part of the world does. And therefore, there's a whole team that's working again round the clock, including with Sylvie and her group, to make sure that all the guidance that we're putting out is completely scientifically validated, evidence-based, of a high quality, and answering the questions that people are asking. So I would say that I think Science Division was created just at the right time, and we're able to provide a service now, not just to the organization, but I think to stakeholders all over the world.
If you can talk a little bit about the science of this virus, why are we in this situation today? As we know, we have seen various coronaviruses before. What is the science behind the troubles we are having right now?
Well, I think Sylvie can say more. She's had a long experience, but I would just say that when you have a new virus, first of all, it was incredible that it was identified so quickly and that we knew that it belonged to the family of beta coronaviruses. We could see the entire genetic sequence on the 11th of January, very early into this pandemic. And therefore, diagnostics were actually developed within a couple of days and were able to share the protocols with labs around the world so that labs around the world were able to start diagnosing this infection. And that's why many countries started picking up cases in January. So that's the power of science. That's the power of what we call whole genome sequencing, which you can do very quickly now to learn about the pathogen. The other thing is, of course, learning, and gradually we've been accumulating the knowledge about how it transmits. It's highly transmissible. We know that. What are the clinical manifestations? We know the groups of people who are more affected: the elderly, people who have underlying conditions, heart disease, obesity, respiratory disease. These are the people who get the severe forms of the illness. We're still learning about the inflammatory response of the body. For those who really get sick and end up on ventilators, the virus itself is going down in the body by then. It's the body's own inflammatory response that is creating havoc in the lungs and in the blood vessels. And then, of course, we are working on clinical trials for drugs as well as a development of new vaccines, which normally takes a minimum of 5 years, usually 10 years for a new vaccine. In this case, the global community has set itself the impossible target of coming up with a vaccine in 12 to 18 months. And we're in the center of that, trying to coordinate and really drive that.
Thank you. Let's just quickly see who is watching from around the world. Anand says hello from India. Jonathan's watching from Union Square in New York. We have Doug watching from the redwood trees, literally under the trees in this Bay Area. We have Imtiaz watching. We have Radian watching from New York. And folks are saying welcome. Sudha saying welcome to the honorable guests. And Rose, one of our producers, says honored to be on this call with these women leaders. And she is active in a movement called Women to Follow, hashtag Women to Follow. And these are certainly women to follow at Dr. Soumya and at SC Briand. Please follow both of them as we discuss what's happening with this virus. We'll meet some of our other viewers as well. Dr. Briand, if we can go to you, if you can talk a little bit about where you see the vaccine. Where are we right now? There seems to be a lot of movement, but we don't know, or there's a lot of things happening, but where are we exactly?
Well, what is very interesting with this pandemic is that it happens also at a time where there is a lot of activity in terms of new technologies. So we see also that there is new platform for producing vaccine, and this is really exciting because for many other pandemic disease or epidemic disease, we are still working with very old technologies of vaccine that were initially discovered in the 20th century, and they work well, so we have kept them. But now we see that we can have a new generation of vaccines. So some of those vaccines, so now we have 130 candidate vaccine. So a lot of biotechs are working around the world to try to develop those vaccines. Some are on platforms that we know already, others are on new platforms. And so we are anxiously waiting to see how those vaccines will work. There are some candidates, a little bit more than 10, that are already entering the clinical trial, which means that you don't distribute a vaccine like that. You first try it on a small number of individuals to see if it works, if it's safe, and before trying it to so those tests are done very carefully because we want a very safe vaccine. But at the same time, as Dr. Soumya said, we try to accelerate the process and carrying out things in parallel instead of doing it sequentially, just to make sure that we have this new vaccine very rapidly. And so it's a very important time because clearly maybe the vaccine will not be the magic bullet, but at least it will be a very important additional tool in our a set of intervention, and it can be a game changer in terms of protecting vulnerable population, protecting elderly, and making the world a much safer place.
And that's what we all hope. Let's go to just ask Dr. Soumya, in terms of your sense of optimism about where we are, do you think that this is something that we will have to live with at a low level, or do you see this is something that we can actually battle and win over?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Sree. And just for our viewers, my Twitter handle is Dr. Soumya, but it's the full word doctor.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll fix it. Thank you for catching that. I'm so sorry. We'll fix it right away.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of where are we going with this virus? I mean, I think it's still difficult to predict. It could go in many different ways, but the way that we think it might pan out is that the virus is very well established now in most countries around the world, in most populations. Though some countries have been able to really contain it and bring it down to very low levels, or even, temporarily get rid of it. But the moment people start moving, the virus will move with them. We've seen in Beijing now that after 55 days, they have another cluster of cases. So it could be that this becomes another endemic human virus. We have so many viruses that we've learned to live with, including the influenza viruses, but also other coronaviruses. Except for SARS-CoV-1, that hasn't shown up again after 2003-4. We have a lot of coronaviruses that cause common colds, and then of course we have the MERS coronavirus. So it may be that we learn how to keep it under control through both the public health measures and hopefully a vaccine, but that you get these occasional cases, and we know a lot of people who get it actually recover from it. Most people recover from it; they don't really get sick. So that's one scenario. But till we get to the point where enough people in the world have immunity, you've heard this term herd immunity talked about. Herd immunity is when enough proportion of people in the population have antibodies or immunity to the virus, so that it stops spreading from person to person. So for this virus, you probably need 60-70% of the population to become immune, and then you can actually ramp down the transmission to very low levels. That is easily achieved through a vaccine. To get there through natural rounds of infection, like what we're seeing now, cities which have had a peak, you find sometimes 10% or at the most 20% of that city, people become, with antibodies, they become immune. But so that will take many cycles. And for the immediate future, I think we need to expect that this virus is not going anywhere, that it will either go like this, up and down in waves. It could go down completely now, come up again in the winter months when people tend to cluster indoors, or it could go up and stay up. We've seen some countries where the peak has become a plateau, and it's not really going down very rapidly. So it's interesting to compare what it's doing in different countries, because that also speaks to the response.
Thank you. We have Dabir watching in Washington. Surely listening to Pandemic Through Leaders sounds authentic. Great panel. Congratulations. So it's great to have you all here. There's a question that Ashok is asking. He says about the hydrochloroquine and why was it withdrawn? It was so he believes it was successful. So this is the kind of information time we're living in. Dr. Sylvie, talk a little bit about that, please, about information, misinformation, disinformation, and how do you fight that along with the health problems we have to fight?
Yeah, at WHO we call it infodemic. It's an epidemic of information, disinformation as well. And every epidemic we have this kind of thing. And I think it's, so we try now to manage this infodemic, because we have seen that you cannot suppress the infodemic. You can just manage it and make sure it doesn't affect people. Because some misinformation or rumors can be very dangerous. For instance, a few weeks ago, there was this rumors that methanol can cure the disease. And we have seen that 400 people died in Iran because they believed it. And so those rumors sometimes can be really harmful. And so we developed tools to protect people and help them to differentiate good information that will help them to fight the pandemic, and information that is either incorrect or sometimes can be really dangerous. And so infodemic management is not new, but what is new is that now, because of the social media, those rumors they spread very fast, and much faster than the virus at least. So we need to have new tools to contain those rumors and make sure that they will not hamper the response. But it's not typical for COVID-19, because, for instance, we had rumors. I remember when I was working in Angola for a response to a yellow fever outbreak. There was a rumor that if you get vaccinated against yellow fever, then you cannot drink beer for 7 days. And so many people didn't want to get vaccinated for this reason. So, and we saw a really a decrease in the uptake of vaccine because of these rumors. Or in Ebola outbreaks, for instance, sometimes rumors are circulating that Ebola doesn't exist. And then people are not cautious enough, and they get infected just because they believe that it is not true, that Ebola is circulating in the community. And so this is why I think we all have something to do with infodemic management, because everyone is spreading information, and so we have our responsibility as well to manage the infodemic. But at WHO we take it very seriously, and we have also we develop with partners mythbusters to try to address as rapidly as possible information that is not correct.
Thank you. Iman is watching. And so she's putting in some of the JAMA links as well. Let's talk to Dr. Soumya, who is with us. She's a chief scientist. Her Twitter handle is @Dr. Soumya. And we have about 10 minutes left, maybe a little less. And we have a reporter from Scroll, our partner in this show, and she's going to ask a couple of quick questions. Amanat Kuller is here. Let's bring her on. Hi, Amanat.
Hello. Hi, Dr. Soumya.
Hi.
Nice to meet you virtually. I'm going to jump right in. Could you talk a little bit about India's response to COVID-19, where lockdown measures have now been eased, but there's a daily spike of about 10,000 to 12,000 cases?
Well, India is a complex and a difficult challenging situation, obviously, just because of the size, the population, the high density in the cities, and also the heterogeneity, everything from remote tribal and rural areas to these highly dense urban settlements in the cities. So I think there needs to be also a strategic response based on the local situation. So a decentralized, data-driven, community-based response, which is happening in many of the places. You know, it's to be expected that as restrictions are lifted, the numbers will go up. And it's not just the numbers that one should be keeping an eye on. It's really the change from day to day. So what is the doubling time? What is the R naught or the transmission rate? What is the testing per million? And what is the positivity rate? That gives a good indication of how much infection there is in that community. And that again, when you look at the data, you can see vast differences between states, between cities. And I think the other big challenge for India is making sure that the rest of the health system continues to perform, because we know that there's a huge burden of both infectious diseases and non-communicable diseases in the population. And so that has to be balanced with the response, the COVID response. So I would say that really the focus coming back needs to be on primary healthcare and public health. And the one thing that stood out in this pandemic is that those places or those countries that have focused on a very strong public health response are the ones who've been able to bring it under control. So even in countries which have relatively, we say, strong health systems and good hospitals, they've provided excellent care to people who've been hospitalized. But the response in the tracking and tracing, contact tracing, and the ramping up the testing, the isolation, the quarantine, those have sometimes fallen behind. It's led to these huge, huge peaks. So there needs to be a comprehensive strategy. We know that one intervention alone, even stringent lockdowns, are not the solution. So you need the public health response of testing and tracking and making sure that every infected individual is taken care of and the contacts are quarantined. And then you also need, of course, to build your health systems, your bed capacity, the oxygen availability in the district hospitals, the training of healthcare workers, and the protection of frontline health workers.
Okay, one more quick question, Amanat, and then we have to wrap up, please.
About the efficacy of wearing face masks. Could you talk a little bit about the WHO's guidelines on it?
Sylvie and then Soumya, Dr. Sylvie and then Dr. Soumya.
Okay, so face masks are very useful for protecting health our people working with sick people because they are very exposed. We have always recommended that workers or people working in a nursing home or even at home, if you take care of patients, it's very important to wear masks. We have also always recommended masks for people who are sick because they are likely to transmit the disease, and so they need to protect the others. Then when we know that the disease is transmitted by droplets, meaning that if you keep sufficient physical distancing, normally it's enough to protect yourself and reduce transmission. What happens is that physical distancing is sometimes extremely difficult to maintain. In many places, there is a high density of population, whether it's in public transport or people living, for instance, in crowded space and confined environments. So that's why WHO recently recommended also that people that are in this kind of situation, they can wear masks as well to protect themselves and protect the others and reduce the transmission ultimately.
Thank you. Let's go to Dr. Soumya.
So this is a good example of area where we have changed our guidance from the beginning till now, when we learned more about the transmission and also learning from countries and the epidemiology and what was going on. So now we have guidance, of course, from the beginning on what healthcare workers should do to protect themselves, where you need a surgical mask or medical mask, where do you need an N95 mask. But the recent guidance talks about those who are sick, above 60 years, or those who have other diseases must wear a medical mask when they go out. And everyone who's living in places where you cannot physically distance, which is large parts of the world, where it's impossible to maintain a distance of over 1 meter, you should wear a face covering. And we've provided additional guidance on the most effective mask. So 3 layers, the inner layer being cotton, then polypropylene, and then a third layer, which is so if you can make, and these can be made very cheaply, locally, if you wear these 3-layer masks, then there is a good chance that you don't pass those droplets on. The other thing to remember now is as offices and then later schools and colleges will open and people will start going back into settings where they are together, I think it's really important that every environment think about how to make it safe for people. And this includes distancing the seating arrangements, making sure there's hand washing or disinfectants available, making sure that masks are worn if the distancing is not possible, making sure that people who are sick don't come to work, have some kind of a screening mechanism, and then take care of people who are sick. And if there is somebody who gets sick, then it's important to make sure that all the co-workers are screened, and that because in closed environments, this virus can spread much more easily. And so it's important. We've seen call centers where hundreds of people got infected from one individual because they're all working within a closed environment. So some of these precautions need to be instituted now before there's a complete opening up of society and people go back to their business.
I know you both have to leave because you have a meeting in a minute. So I'm going to just mention a few topics, and in your final comment, if you can incorporate any or all of them. We've gotten many questions about WHO and China. We've gotten questions about what is President Trump doing with WHO. We also got questions whether you would say to President Trump, don't have that rally. He's having 20,000 people in an enclosed stadium on Saturday. So many different questions. You're welcome to tackle any or all of them in a final comment each. We'll start with Dr. Sylvie. Please follow her at Sree Briand on Twitter.
Yeah, I think we know that when people gathered, there's more risk for transmitting the virus. So really my advice for those people, if they attend those mass gatherings, they need to protect themselves and really be careful and observe all the recommendations we have put on the web. We have put recommendations for mass gathering, but also for personal measures. So if people look at this, really I advise them to protect themselves because the virus is still circulating, and even if most of the people will have mild disease, still it's a very difficult disease. I can tell you because my son and my husband got it, and it's really more severe than flu, and it's not a nice moment. So it's really better if people can avoid to get it.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dr. Briand. We wish you the very best and lots of great comments coming in and questions. We hope we'll be able to have you back. Thank you very much. Let's go to Dr. Soumya. We have questions also. Here is Dabar saying that Dr. Soumya's take on where this virus will take us is just incredible. So with that, your comments and your final thoughts on anything we brought up in the last minute.
So I see that there are some great questions and comments, and one of them, of course, is about vaccines and when will we have vaccines. And as Sylvie was saying, we have a lot to be hopeful and optimistic about because there are a huge number of different platforms that are being tested. We already have 11 candidates which have gone into clinical trials. We should have results before the end of the year for at least 3 or 4 of them. Then, of course, is the challenge, if they are found to be effective and safe, the challenge of manufacturing billions of doses. We're not talking here in millions, but in billions to protect people. But I think that's what we're doing now. We have this program called the ACT Accelerator, which brings together many, many partners, including the private sector, including all the big global health agencies and the big philanthropies to accelerate the development of a vaccine as well as therapeutics by investing in the science, but also investing in manufacturing facilities in advance of the science actually proven. So I'm optimistic, but cannot be 100% sure because unless the trials are done, we don't know which vaccine will work. But I think in 2021, we're going to have vaccines at least to protect the most vulnerable members of our society. And then finally, I'd like to say the way WHO works is through our expert networks. And we have 194 member states. All of them participate in our scientific activities, whether it's China, whether it's the US, or any country in the world. Our expert groups have very broad geographic diversity. And that's what really I think is our strength, because we call upon and we rely upon expertise from different parts of the world. And so regardless of the geopolitics, the technical work, the scientific work has not been affected, luckily. And that's why I said we've seen incredible collaboration, incredible solidarity in that community, and really wanting to pull together, knowing that that's the only way to defeat this and come out of the pandemic.
Thank you. I know you both have to leave, so we're just very grateful to you for being here. Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, Dr. spelled out Soumya on Twitter, at Dr. Soumya, and at Sree Briand, Dr. Sylvie Briand, head of the pandemics and infectious diseases, epidemic diseases department. She's the director there. Thank you both very much. We wish you the best. You're fighting for all of us, and we're very, very grateful.
Thank you very much, Sree. Hope to see you again sometime.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And thank you for watching. We are going to bring back our friend from Scroll, the reporter who's been covering the pandemic in India, and just get her thoughts as well. Please welcome back Amanat Kular. She's at Scroll.in, our partner in these shows. And Amanat, thank you for being here. Thank you for staying. Tell me about first of all, what you thought of the conversation, and also where you think this is about the answers we got and what's happening in India, because those of us sitting here are so distracted by what's happening in America that we haven't had a chance to understand properly what's happening in India.
Yes, it was a very enlightening conversation, especially getting experts who are basically on the front lines and helping develop the vaccine helps us understand where we are. We know that possibly a second wave is coming, and I think everyone's sort of really anxious about what the future holds, what the next 6 months or the next year is going to look like. So in terms of India, India went into lockdown pretty quickly, and for extended periods of for several weeks we were in lockdown, and there was basically no movement. But as measures have started to ease up, because a country like India, where the economy is highly dependent on informal workers, etc., we couldn't stay locked down for extended periods of time. And now that we've opened up, the cases have started rising, and we have started to realize that we are actually not very well prepared in terms of our public healthcare systems. In Delhi, where I am, in the last 10 or so days, there are extended reports of hospitals running out of beds. People are reaching out on Twitter and social media and asking for help, whether they have any connections, etc., for their sick family members who can get some basic healthcare right now. So I think everyone's really anxious about where this is headed, and yeah, we're hoping for the best.
Yeah, there's some extra noise coming in from your microphone somehow, but that's okay. Just want to say to everyone who's watching, thank you for watching. I know there were a lot of questions. We couldn't get to all of them because they had to go to a meeting. They're working on a late in Geneva, and they gave us a half hour, and we were grateful for that. People are saying they were happy to see this. I thought you would like this comment, Amanat, because she says, good. Makran says, good. Scroll is cool. Good to see the people behind it. So that's why we're doing this. And Iman says that thanks, Sree. This is awesome. And she works with JAMA, with the Journal of the American Medical Association, which is great that she's doing. Believe in science, says Lois. Believe in science. Pay attention. And Arjun's watching from Jaisalmer, and Stefan's watching from Ramsey, New Jersey. Just great to have all of these people here. It shows you the kind of reach that Scroll has all over the world. It's not just India. For people who don't know Scroll, talk a little bit about it, please.
Scroll India is like an independent news publication. We have offices in Delhi and Mumbai. And we basically cover a lot of ground reports. We focus on healthcare, politics, etc. And you can find us on Scroll.in.
And what do you typically cover? I'm sure you are not the permanent pandemics reporter for
Yes.
Scroll. So you've also been at Scroll a relatively short time, but
Yes.
talk a little bit about your own work and background, please.
Yes. So I joined Scroll very recently. I've been here for about 2 weeks now. I've been covering the South Asian diaspora in the United States. Yeah, that's basically what I've been doing here.
Okay.
And I've been reaching out to a lot of people, the Indian Americans who are in different cities in the United States, and I'm just understanding what their experiences are, especially at a time like this in the last few weeks where the Black Lives Matter protest really blew up, what anxieties they're facing, and yeah, just getting them connected.
Look at this. Scroll is my school in lockdown. Isn't that amazing? And Jonathan says, but it was a great half hour. And somebody else says, Scroll is amazing from Maharashtra, and Scroll is influencing in a positive way. So I hope you'll take all of this back to your teams. This is not a question that came for you, but about how does COVID work? And please explain it scientifically, ma'am. I'm not going to ask you to do that, so you don't have to worry about it. But with that, I can let you go if you don't have any other comments or anything you'd like to share.
No, thanks for having me on, Sree. This was really fun.
Thank you. And the idea here is that we are working together, Scroll and My Daily Show. We have put together now 99 shows. And you can see in our numbers here how we're doing. The first 75 shows with 155 guests and 91 women. And I thought it was really great to see 2 female leaders speaking from WHO. That really emphasizes the role that women leaders, scientists, doctors are playing in this fight. And it's very important for people to see that and look at these numbers. It's just been fantastic to work with your team in Scroll. So thank you very much. And we'll see you soon, Amana.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We had so little time today, we couldn't thank our sponsors at the beginning, but we also have a really cool thing you can do for our 100th show. So don't forget that this has been an incredible week of shows, and we end this run with a 100th show tomorrow. We'll have Noliwe Rooks, the W.E.B. Du Bois Professor of Literature at Cornell, and Brandy Harden, a lawyer and board member at Justice Aid, and several other guests, including Jonathan Borstein, who's joining us. Jonathan is our most loyal viewer. He's watched for 99 straight days, and he'll make it to 100 tomorrow, and so he'll be with us. I'm very excited about that. And we want you to go back and look at our archives, youtube.com/Sreenet, and you can find it also at Scroll.in's background, their archives as well. You can see Sunday started with Peter Herford, and Peter is the gentleman you see behind the legendary Walter Cronkite. Walter is getting the news of JFK's assassination handed to him, and Peter's on the wire. He's the gentleman in the glasses behind the legendary Walter Cronkite. So this is the kind of shows we're doing and topics we're covering. And please check us out, and please come back and be a regular viewer if you've just stumbled on us today. Let's thank our sponsors, Art & Co. Get involved with the world's largest online art auction fundraising for COVID-19 victims, artandco.net, artandco.net. Also, if you have a teenager, the Global Virtual Teen Camp, Global Entrepreneurship Experience, get 20% off with the code SREE, globalentrepreneurshipexperience.org. globalentrepreneurshipexperience.org, 20% off code with SREE. Also want to tell you that my Fundamentals of Social Media course is now live, and you can sign up and watch and get a certification in the Fundamentals of Social, mrac.co/social, mrac.co/social. 4,000 people are taking that class right now. It's just 2 hours with lots of videos, lots of information, quizzes, and you can get a certificate right at the end of it. And here's what the certificate looks like. I think it's pretty cute that we were able to do this, and you get your own certificate, and it's completely free. We have lots of great shows coming up, but for the 100th show, we want you to participate. So we have a special new way that you can send us a video, and we're using a tool that teachers use all over the world called Flipgrid. So just go to flipgrid.com/SreeShow, flipgrid.com/SreeShow, or use this QR code, and it'll take you to a page where you can upload a picture of or a video that you want to share. So this is Mark Lee's video that he wanted to share, and you just hit this big button, and anything you'd like for a minute you can share with us. We'd love to have you participate in our 100th show. We'll show the videos on air. So please join us at flipgrid.com/SreeShow. Here it is again, flipgrid.com/SreeShow. And thank you all very much for being here. We want to also show you that we have this QR code that will help you access our alert system for WhatsApp. This is not a WhatsApp group. All this is an alert whenever we go live. So just hold up your phone and grab that QR code, and you will be told when we are live. We have so many shows still to come, of course. We promised we would do this as long as we're on lockdown in New York, and we will be for some more time. So please do sign up and be with us. Please email us if you have any questions. You see my email right there, Sree@Sree.net. I'm at Sree on Twitter, at SreenetNet on Instagram, and please follow Scroll_in on Twitter and Scroll.in, the website that helps bring this all to you. And we also, speaking of medical issues, we want to tell you about a new show that we have launched that we want to tell you about. We are executive producing the show. It's called She's on Call, and it's a show that is about 2 female surgeons talking about what they have learned and taking your questions. And you can find it at She's on Call on Twitter, on YouTube, and on Facebook. So please search She's on Call and please sign up. And finally, we want to say that we have promised, based on what one of our guests said, they said, say their names. You know, we're talking not just about medical emergencies and the health situation, but we're also talking about the financial situation, and we're talking about the racial injustice in America. And so on this show, we have promised every episode to say their names, the names who of the victims of the killings that should never have happened. So we are basing this off of this portrait by Titus Kaffir to mark the killing of George Floyd. And this is based on this image, a haunting image of young George Floyd with his mother, Larcinia. He would die 2 years almost to the day after she died, and they're buried next to each other. And this is the portrait that he made, the painting he made based on this photograph. And these are the names we want to read to you. Trayvon Martin, Yvette Smith, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Laquan McDonald, Tanisha Anderson, Akai Gurley, Tamir Rice, Jeraine Reed, Natasha McKenna, Eric Harris, Walter Scott, Freddie Gray, William Chapman, Sandra Bland, Darius Stewart, Samuel Dubose, Janet Wilson, Callan Rockmore, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Joseph Mann, Terrence Crutcher, Chad Robertson, Jordan Edwards, Aaron Bailey, Stefan Clark, Danny Ray Thomas, Antoine Rose, Botham Jean, Tatiana Jefferson, Michael Dean, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. And to that list, we must also add Rashard Brooks, who was shot dead last weekend in Atlanta. He was asleep in his car, and he had a 40-minute peaceful, no weapons involved on either side conversation, wanted to go home to his family, and there was a scuffle, and he got a hold of one of the tasers of one of the officers. They shot him with a taser, they missed, and then he shot back. And at that moment, he was shot and killed with a gun as he ran away. A taser is not considered a lethal weapon in the American system, and that's how the police are able to justify using it. And so there is no reason, as you heard in the DA's outlining yesterday, there's no reason that you would then use lethal force against a non-lethal weapon. It's non-lethal on both sides if they're using it. Anyway, it's so much for us to learn, and we are humbled to be able to have this conversation on so many things. We're very grateful to everyone who's joined us. Please keep sharing your comments. Please watch every single day. We're on the air either usually 9 p.m. Eastern or noon Eastern when we can. So many different comments coming in. Iman says QR code's amazing, and we are talking about how we're reading the names. That's great. Jonathan already took our course, and LinkedIn user says this is great, plus all the items you're doing in addition. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. We're very, very honored to be able to do this. And big day tomorrow with our 100th show. And Sudha Parekh says very good information from WHO representatives and scientists. And it turns out that Sudha worked on the same, taught at the same medical school, the Armed Forces Medical College in Pune, which is a fantastic medical school. She taught there also perhaps at a different time, but was there as well. We forgot to mention one more thing we're doing on, so we have a great, let me just give you the lineup of the weekend. Friday night is our 100th episode. Saturday at noon to 2 hours, we do our weekly radio call-in show on WBAI. It's called Coping with COVID, a helpful, hopeful call-in show, and we'll have great guests for that. And then on Saturday night, we're going to talk career strategy and what you can do in the middle of this pandemic to work on your careers. And we'll be meeting Jacqueline Dolly, who's a terrific expert, and she'll share her views on what you can do. That's 9 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. Sunday morning, 8:30 a.m. starts with our Sunday New York Times read-along. That's right, we read the Sunday New York Times out loud. For 5 years, we've been doing it sort of like crazy people. and we discuss the print edition of the New York Times. And our guest will be the print editor of the New York Times, Tom Jolly. Please follow him at Tom Jolly. We would love to have him have a great audience from all of you. And then at 11 p.m., 11 a.m., right after that, we'll be having the episode of She's on Call with our new show that we're executive producing with two great female doctors. And then my usual Sunday night show, but it's Father's Day in America. So I'll be hosting my twins, Durga and Krishna, who are 17 years old. The only reason they agreed to come on my show was because it's Father's Day. Others, we've had 7-year-olds, 9-year-olds, perspectives from all of these kids about what it's like to be under pandemic, and now we'll hear from them. And because it's Father's Day, we're offering you a really special opportunity. Thank a father figure in your life, a grandfather, uncle, male role model, anyone, and just submit a picture and a message, and we'll read it on the air. Go to digimentors.link/Father's Day, digimentors.link/Father's Day. If you cannot afford the price, let us know. We'll make sure you're still able to do it. You get 50% of the proceeds will go to charity, but please go to digimentors.link/Father's Day. If you don't get the link, just email me, sree@sree.net, SREE@SREE.net. Thank you very much, everybody. Honored to have you all here. Comments are still coming in. We're very grateful. Anand says, thank you for the show. You're welcome. And can't wait for show number 100. And we have talked about having Iman and the team from JAMA participate as well. We'd love to have them come on the show as well. Thank you very much, everybody. Please email me, Sree@Sree.net, SREE@SRE.